Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive, where we like to really get into some fascinating stuff you guys are reading and researching. And today, we're diving deep into the world of AI.
Oh, yeah.
With Kai-Fu Lee's book, AI Superpowers, as our main guide.
It's a good one.
It is a good one. We've also got a really interesting stack of articles and research to kind of round things out.
Absolutely.
Lee's book is really fascinating. It goes deep into China's explosive growth in the field of AI, you know, how it compares and contrasts with kind of the Silicon Valley approach.
Right.
And then what all of this could mean for the future of jobs, the economy, and even like what it means to be human.
It's pretty profound stuff.
It is. So we're going to try to pull out the most important insights, the most surprising aha moments, you know, and make sure you walk away feeling like, wow, I learned some stuff, but also without drowning you in technical jargon.
Sure.
So no like algorithms or anything.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you're here to guide us through this.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so Lee kind of kicks things off with what he calls China's Sputnik moment.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so think back to 2017. Google's AlphaGo program beat Go champion Kiji, which was a huge wake-up call for China, a sign that they were becoming a major player in AI.
Like a challenge almost.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a gauntlet thrown down. And the Chinese government, they saw this as a turning point. They started pumping resources into AI development, and they've been making incredible progress ever since.
So Lee talks about how the West often saw Chinese tech as just copying Silicon Valley, right? Like they're just kind of mimicking what we're doing. But he uses the story of Wang Xing and his company Meituan to show how that's really starting to change.
Yeah, Wang Xing actually kind of leaned into that copycat label early on. Meituan started as basically a Groupon clone.
Okay.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
He didn't just copy. He adapted.
Yeah.
He innovated. And he did it with a ruthlessness that you don't always see in Silicon Valley.
He was a gladiator.
Yeah, he was a total gladiator.
And they left Groupon in the dust.
Oh.
Right. Meituan is this massive company now worth billions, and they're doing everything from food delivery to selling movie tickets.
Yeah, they just dominated the Chinese market.
So what's the key difference here? How did they pull that off?
It's all about how they approach innovation. Chinese companies like Meituan are laser focused on the market. Their goal is to make money, and they're willing to be incredibly flexible to do it. That's how they outmaneuvered Groupon. They were constantly adapting and expanding into new areas based on what the market wanted.
So they were agile.
Agile and ruthless.
Yeah, and Lee talks about another big advantage, that China has data. What's so special about their data?
Data is the fuel for AI. The more you have, the better your AI gets. And China, they've got mountains of data.
Yeah, they've got a lot of people.
It's not just the population size, it's the way they use technology. China went all in on mobile in a way the West hasn't.
It's all about the apps, right? Like, think about WeChat.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the Swiss Army knife of apps. People use it for messaging, paying for things, ordering food. You name it. That's got to be generating a ton of data.
Oh, yeah, tons. And that data is incredibly valuable to Chinese companies. They can use it to develop and refine their AI algorithms, making them incredibly sophisticated.
Okay, so China's got this entrepreneurial energy.
Right.
They're swimming in data. But Lee also points to the role of the Chinese government in this AI boom. What are they doing that's different?
The government's taken a very active approach. We're talking massive funding for AI research and development policies designed to support AI startups, and even nationwide campaigns to encourage what they call mass entrepreneurship and mass innovation.
Oh, wow.
They're not just letting this happen organically, they're driving it.
So it's not just about funding individual companies, it's about creating an entire ecosystem that's geared towards AI.
Precisely. They have government-backed venture capital funds pouring billions into AI startups. That kind of influence can be controversial.
I bet.
Because, you know, some people argue that it stifles truly organic innovation, but you can't argue with the results. China's AI sector is growing at an incredible pace.
That brings us to Lee's framework of the 4 waves of AI, which he uses to kind of break down AI's impact on different parts of our lives. The first wave he calls Internet AI. That's the AI we interact with online every day, right?
Yeah, it's already all around us. Think personalized recommendations on Amazon, targeted ads on Google, even the content that pops up on your social media feeds. That's Internet AI.
And that level of personalization is getting kind of crazy.
It is.
You know, these algorithms seem to know what we're going to click on before we even do.
Right.
I know it's supposed to be helpful.
Sure.
But it's also a bit creepy.
Yeah.
Like, how much does this AI really know about me?
That's a good question. And it leads us right into wave 2, which Lee calls business AI. This wave is about using AI to automate tasks in fields like finance, healthcare, and logistics. It's about using AI to make these industries more efficient and effective.
So we're talking about things like AI algorithms making decisions about loans, analyzing medical images, and optimizing supply chains. Lee gives the example of Ant Financial, which is using AI to assess creditworthiness. Instead of looking at traditional credit scores, their algorithms analyze online shopping habits and social media activity. Is that even fair?
It's certainly different and surprisingly effective. They're seeing incredibly low default rates, which suggests that this kind of AI-powered approach could really shake up the banking industry.
It's a bit unsettling to think about how this kind of AI could be used. Lee's third wave perception AI is where things get really futuristic.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about AI interacting with the physical world through smart devices and sensors. We're talking self-driving cars, facial recognition, smart homes, even smart cities. It seems like science fiction is becoming reality.
It is. And China is leading the charge in many of these areas, especially when it comes to smart homes and cities. Companies like Xiaomi are building these massive ecosystems of affordable AI-powered devices for the home. And cities across China are already experimenting with AI to manage traffic flow, monitor the environment, and even predict crime. It's incredible to see how quickly this technology is being adopted and integrated into people's lives.
Okay, and finally we have Lee's fourth wave, autonomous AI. This is the big one, right? AI operating completely independently in the real world.
It's the most futuristic and potentially the most disruptive. Think robots performing complex tasks without any human involvement, drones delivering packages autonomously, even AI systems managing entire industries or infrastructure.
Yeah.
The possibilities and potential risks are pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah. Lee seems to be saying that these waves build on each other. The data generated by internet AI feeds into business AI, which fuels perception AI and ultimately autonomous AI. It makes you realize how quickly things could change.
Exactly. And it leads to some pretty big questions like, what does this mean for jobs? If AI is going to be automating so many tasks, what happens to the people who used to do those jobs?
That's the big question that keeps coming up.
Right.
And Lee doesn't shy away from it. He actually analyzes the threat using something he calls risk of replacement graphs.
Okay.
He looks at which jobs are most vulnerable to being replaced by AI, focusing on things like creativity, social interaction, and dexterity.
The scary part is the speed and scale of this potential disruption. It's not like previous technological revolutions that happened over generations. This could happen within a single generation. We need to be thinking now about how we're going to adapt. Our education systems, our social safety nets, even our definition of work itself. All of that might need to change.
So it's not just about retraining people for new jobs, it's about rethinking the whole concept of work and what it means to be a contributing member of society.
Exactly. And that's where Lee's ideas about a social investment stipend come in. He argues that we need to shift our focus from economic productivity to human well-being.
He's proposing that people could get this stipend in exchange for doing things like care work, community service, or education. It's a really interesting idea. But how would something like that work in practice? How do we make sure people are contributing meaningfully? And where does the money come from?
Those are all great questions, and honestly, we don't have all the answers yet. But the point is that we need to be having these conversations now. The AI revolution is coming, and we need to be ready for it.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already, and you've done a fantastic job breaking down these really complex ideas. Before we dive into Lee's more personal reflections on the meaning of work and human connection, I'm curious to hear more about some of the examples he gives of how Chinese companies are using AI in innovative ways. Do you have any favorites?
Oh, absolutely. Let's start with Tuqiao, this news and content platform that's sometimes called the BuzzFeed of China. Except, instead of human editors curating content, Tuqiao's editors are algorithms. They use AI to tailor each user's content feed.
So it's all about optimizing for engagement, which of course means more ad revenue for Tuqiao. And they've been pretty successful at it, right?
Wildly successful. Tuqiao is worth billions now, way more than BuzzFeed. It's an incredible example of how powerful personalized content can be, especially when you have AI that can process massive amounts of data about user preferences. And it's not just news and entertainment. Chinese companies are using similar AI-driven personalization tactics in e-commerce, education, even healthcare.
It seems like personalization is the name of the game in the Chinese tech world. Lee also talks a lot about online to offline or O2O services and how China is leading the way.
O2O is all about using technology to blur the lines between the online and offline worlds. China is really at the forefront of this thanks to the widespread use of mobile payments and the rise of super apps like WeChat.
Can you give us a concrete example of how this is playing out?
Think about food delivery. In China, Companies like Meituan Dianping have created massive food delivery networks that connect users with restaurants across the country. They use AI to optimize every part of the process, from suggesting restaurants to mapping out delivery routes to minimizing delivery times.
I've heard that food delivery in China is incredibly fast and efficient. You order on your phone and it's at your door in minutes. It's amazing.
It's true. And it's just one example of how O2O services are changing how people live in China. We're also seeing AI-powered ride-hailing on demand, grocery delivery, and even telehealth platforms that allow users to consult with doctors online and get their prescriptions delivered right to their homes.
They're creating this seamless, integrated digital ecosystem where everything is connected and accessible through your phone. It sounds incredibly convenient, but also a little overwhelming.
It can be both, for sure. But there's no denying that China is really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with O2O services. And a lot of that is driven by their unique urban environments.
What's so special about Chinese cities in this context?
Chinese cities are incredibly dense. They're well connected digitally, and they're adopting new technologies at a rapid pace. It makes them the perfect testing ground for all sorts of AI-powered solutions, especially in areas like transportation, public safety, and urban planning.
Li calls Chinese cities living laboratories for AI. It sounds like something out of science fiction.
It does, but it's happening right now. Cities like Hangzhou are experimenting with these AI-powered city brains. They use data from sensors and cameras to optimize traffic flow, manage energy consumption, and even predict crime. These experiments are generating mountains of data that Chinese companies can then use to further improve their AI capabilities.
It's fascinating to see how quickly China is moving in this space. But Li also talks about some of the potential downsides, right?
Absolutely. One of the biggest concerns is the ethical side of AI, particularly in areas like privacy and surveillance. China's government has already implemented widespread surveillance systems that use AI to monitor citizens. It raises some serious questions about how this technology could be used for authoritarian purposes. It's a real concern, and it's something we need to be thinking about carefully as AI becomes more powerful and widespread.
Li seems to be saying that we need to be thinking about these ethical issues now before it's too late. We need to develop ethical frameworks and regulations to ensure that AI is used responsibly for the benefit of humanity.
He is absolutely right. We can't just let AI develop unchecked. We need to be proactive about shaping its development and making sure it aligns with our values.
Okay, so we've talked about China's rise in AI, the 4 waves of AI, and their potential impact on jobs and some of the ethical considerations we need to be thinking about. But I want to get back to this question of jobs for a minute. Li paints a pretty sobering picture of how AI could displace millions of workers. But he also offers some potential solutions, right?
Yes, he does.
Right.
One of his main proposals is this idea of a social investment stipend, essentially a guaranteed basic income that would provide a safety net for workers who are displaced by AI.
It's a pretty radical idea, but it's gaining some traction as AI-driven job displacement becomes more of a reality. Li argues that we need to find ways to make sure everyone benefits from the economic gains of AI, not just a select few.
He makes a really good point. If we don't address this issue, we risk creating a world where the gap between the rich and poor gets even wider, which could lead to even more social unrest.
We've got some serious challenges ahead of us. But Li also seems to be saying that AI presents an opportunity to rethink our relationship with work and create a more human-centric society.
Yes, and that's a hopeful message. It's not about rejecting technology. It's about figuring out how to integrate it into our lives in a way that makes us more human, not less.
Well said. Okay, I think that's a good place to pause for now. When we come back, I want to dive into some of Li's more personal reflections on the meaning of work and the importance of human connection in the age of AI.
Sounds good.
So one of the things that really struck me about AI superpowers is how Li kind of weaves his personal story into this whole exploration of AI.
Yeah, definitely. It makes it more relatable.
Yeah, you get a sense of the human side of this technological revolution.
Definitely. Like, he's not just some detached observer. He's right there in the thick of it.
Right. Like when he talks about his experience with cancer,
Yeah.
it was a huge wake-up call for him. You know, he really had to confront his own mortality.
It definitely puts things into perspective.
And rethink what was truly important, you know?
Like, all of a sudden, all the success and achievements in the tech world just didn't seem to matter as much anymore.
Right. All that stuff kind of fades away.
Yeah.
And you realize that it's the relationships, the human connections that really matter.
Absolutely.
And it's a good reminder for all of us. I think even with all the amazing technological advancements happening around us, you know, human connection is still at the core of what makes life meaningful.
I think that's a really important point.
And Li connects this back to the whole AI revolution.
Yeah.
He argues that As AI takes over more routine tasks, the things that we do kind of on autopilot,
Right, the mundane stuff.
we should be focusing on cultivating our uniquely human qualities.
Like love, compassion, empathy.
Yeah, exactly. He sees those qualities as essential not just for surviving in the age of AI, but for thriving.
It's about more than just getting by. It's about living a truly fulfilling life.
Right. And he proposes this idea of a social investment stipend,
Oh, yeah.
which we talked about a little bit before, but it's like a
Yeah.
universal basic income that would provide a safety net for people whose jobs are displaced by AI.
It's about creating a society where people are valued for their contributions beyond traditional work.
Exactly. It's about expanding our definition of work and recognizing the value of things that are often overlooked.
Like care work, community service, education, those kind of things.
Right, and it's a really interesting concept.
It is.
But it does raise a lot of practical questions.
Of course.
Yeah.
How would it be funded? How do you ensure that people are actually contributing meaningfully?
Yeah, those are big questions. But I think these are important conversations to have as we think about the future of work.
Absolutely. We need to be proactive about shaping this future.
Lee also talks about visiting a Buddhist monastery in Taiwan
Oh, wow.
and how he was really struck by the monks' dedication to service and their emphasis on cultivating compassion and empathy.
That's fascinating.
It really resonated with him. He realized that these qualities are not just some nice-to-haves.
Right.
They're actually essential for a fulfilling life.
And not just individual fulfillment, but for society as a whole.
Right. Lee believes that fostering these qualities is crucial for navigating the disruptions that AI will inevitably bring.
It's about understanding our interconnectedness and finding ways to support each other.
And he tells this great story about a friend who created a touchscreen device for elderly people.
Okay.
It had all these cool features, like ordering food consulting with doctors, even entertainment options.
Yeah.
But guess what the most popular feature was?
I have no idea. What was it?
The customer service button.
Really?
No.
So they weren't using it for tech support or anything?
Nope. They were using it because they were lonely and just wanted someone to talk to.
Oh, wow. That's kind of heartbreaking.
It is, but it highlights this essential truth. AI can provide for our material needs, but it can't replace real human connection.
I think that's a really powerful point.
And it makes you think about how we design our future with AI.
Yeah, we have to be intentional about creating opportunities for human interaction.
Right. We need to nurture a sense of community even as we embrace these technological advancements.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the economic and social implications of AI, but Lee also gets into the geopolitical side of things.
Right.
He talks about how AI is shaping the competition between the US and China.
He sees it as a race for AI supremacy.
Yeah, with both countries vying for dominance in this crucial technology.
And the stakes are incredibly high.
He makes the case that whoever wins this race could have a significant advantage on the world stage.
It's about more than just economic competitiveness.
Right. It's about military strength, cultural influence even.
Yeah, it's about which country's values and vision for the future will shape the development of AI globally.
And Lee points out some key differences in how the US and China approach AI development.
He contrasts the Silicon Valley model, which is all about private enterprise and innovation,
Right.
with the Chinese model, which is more centralized and guided by the government.
And he highlights how the Chinese government is pouring money into AI research and taking a very active role in shaping the industry.
They're not afraid to get their hands dirty.
And they also have a big advantage when it comes to data.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
China's huge population and their embrace of mobile technology have created this enormous pool of data that Chinese companies can use to train their AI algorithms.
And that data, combined with government support and a culture that encourages rapid experimentation, has helped them close the gap with the US.
And in some areas like facial recognition and smart cities, China might already be ahead.
It's a really dynamic and complex competition.
It's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds.
Yeah, the implications are huge.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From the economic and social impacts of AI to the geopolitical landscape.
It's a lot to take in.
Lee paints a realistic picture of the challenges ahead, but he also offers a message of hope.
I like that.
He believes that AI can be a force for good if we consciously shape its development and use it to enhance our humanity.
All right, it's not about AI versus humans. It's about AI and humans working together.
Exactly. And his insights into the importance of human connection and the need for a more compassionate and empathetic society feel especially relevant right now.
Absolutely. In a world that's becoming increasingly dominated by technology, we need to make a conscious effort to nurture those human qualities that connect us to one another.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to share one final thought that Lee leaves us with.
Okay.
He tells a story about an elderly woman who had everything she needed materially.
Okay.
You know, her children took care of her, she had a comfortable home, good food access to health care.
Sounds like she had it all.
But she was still unhappy
Why is that?
because she was lonely.
Ah, that makes sense.
And it's something we see all too often, even in today's hyper-connected world.
Yeah, it's easy to feel isolated even when you're surrounded by people.
Exactly. She longed for human connection more than anything else.
It's a basic human need.
And it's a reminder that, yeah, he is. And one of the things he emphasizes is the need to rethink our approach to education. He argues that traditional methods of teaching, with their focus on rote memorization and standardized tests.
That's right, just filling kids' heads with facts and figures.
Exactly. That's just not going to cut it in the age of AI.
Because AI is going to be able to do all that stuff better and faster than we ever could.
Exactly. So we need to focus on the skills that AI can't replicate, things like critical thinking, creativity, problem solving, collaboration, communication. These are the uniquely human skills that will be in high demand in a world where AI is automating so many routine tasks.
So it's not just about teaching kids what to think, it's about teaching them how to think.
Exactly, and how to work effectively with other people, which is becoming more and more important in this increasingly interconnected world.
Definitely. Lee also stresses the importance of developing emotional intelligence, empathy, and social skills.
Right, like those soft skills.
Yeah, exactly. The things that will help us navigate the complex social and ethical challenges that AI will inevitably bring.
It's interesting because for so long, those soft skills were seen as kind of secondary to technical skills.
Right, like they were nice to have, but not essential.
But Lee seems to be saying that in the age of AI, they're going to be just as important, if not more so.
I think he's right. We're going to need people who can not only understand and work with AI, but also understand and connect with other humans.
Right, it's about the human touch.
Exactly. That's going to be key to building a successful and sustainable future.
Lee also offers this framework for thinking about the impact of AI on jobs, which he calls the risk of replacement graph.
Okay, I like that.
And it's based on two main factors, creativity and compassion.
So jobs that are high in both of those areas are the least likely to be automated.
Exactly, like artists, therapists, social workers, these are roles where human creativity, empathy, and intuition are essential.
And those are qualities that AI, at least for now, can't replicate.
Right, but Lee also points out that even jobs that are traditionally seen as low in creativity or compassion can be redesigned to incorporate those elements.
Interesting how...
He uses the example of a radiologist, which is often seen as a highly technical and data-driven job.
Right, very specialized.
But he argues that even radiologists can bring compassion and empathy to their work.
I see what he's saying.
Like, they can take the time to explain a diagnosis to a patient in a clear and reassuring way. They can offer emotional support. They can be a source of human connection in a moment of fear and uncertainty.
That's a great example. It shows that we don't have to simply accept that AI will take over certain jobs entirely.
Right. We can find ways to make those jobs more human-centered.
To focus on the aspects that require uniquely human skills and qualities.
Exactly. It's about finding ways to work with AI, not against it.
To leverage its strengths while also preserving and amplifying our own.
I think Lee's book is really a call to action. He's urging us to wake up to the reality of the AI revolution.
Yeah, to not bury our heads in the sand.
Exactly, and to start thinking seriously about how we can shape a future that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
A future that's more equitable and just...
Exactly, and it's a call we can't afford to ignore. The decisions we make today, both individually and collectively, will have a huge impact on the world of tomorrow.
Absolutely, we need to be proactive.
So we need to start asking ourselves some tough questions. What kind of future do we want to create? What role do we want AI to play in that future? And how can we ensure that AI is used to enhance our humanity rather than diminish it?
Those are big questions, but they're important ones.
They are, and I think the most important takeaway from Lee's book is that we're not powerless in this process. The future isn't predetermined. We have the ability to shape it.
I agree, and I think that's an empowering message.
It is. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating the kind of world we want to live in, a world where AI serves humanity, not the other way around.
A world where technology is used for good.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's remember that let's be mindful of the power of technology, but let's also remember the importance of our own humanity. Let's choose to cultivate compassion, empathy, and connection in our lives and communities, and let's work together to build a future that reflects those values.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking, and we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas and to share your own thoughts and insights with others. Until next time, keep diving deep.